Hello, and welcome to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, integrity deficit disorder. Today we have author Jim B. North and his book, Unsung Heroes, Wear No Capes, 12 Essential Virtues for an Extraordinary Life. Quite a title on that book. I like it a lot. What do you think?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be on your show, John.
I'm glad you are. Um, I have a bunch of stuff that I was looking at that you sent me, and I appreciate it, every bit of it. And I'm actually when I get to talking to people and their books, well, I, I'm a nut for table of contents. And that basically gives me the book before I can read it.
Hmm.
And I did find I got the Kindle library. I bought $10 on it, and and now I got a printout of the table of contents. How about that?
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to make it. Um,
Yeah, actually enjoyed writing the table of contents.
did you? I mean, you had them all out, and interesting. Okay,
Yeah, this is
that's
kind of a
awesome.
little bit of a world inside of the table of contents, that takes
Absolutely.
a lot of effort too.
Well, should I throw some of these table of contents in you? Is your memory
Yeah,
that good?
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
What's your favorite chapter?
Well, I laid the foundation with the first virtue. First of all, a virtue is a value, but it's a virtue because it's actively engaged. You have to take a value, make it your own, make it a
Right.
decision, make it a way of life, and that's what expands your life is acting on the nuts and bolts of character. Achievements are great, but the foundation is character. And if you have great achievements without character, it's not good. But if you have great character, it's going to really enhance your achievements. So I started out with love as the master key because it's so foundational for everything we do, everything we are.
Sure.
The old adage, your neighbor, loving your neighbor as yourself, that's a
Hmm.
true measuring device. How am I framing my neighbor and myself? So love first. And, I wanted it to be an encouragement to other people.
Well, that's great. For some reason, I saw a movie a long time ago, and maybe it was in church, and it was Moses. Moses had the Ten Commandments,
Mhm.
and I think that's where the statement came from. Did it? Neighbor?
Yeah, for sure. And it's true that the 10 Commandments, if you break them down, it's a breaking down of the big love law. You would never lie about your neighbor if you loved them. You'd never
No.
kill them if you loved them. You'd never bear false witness and steal from your neighbor if you love them. And so, really, love is the fulfillment of those 10 commandments in a very real way.
Right. Now, um, courage. Once you get the courage for love, now you get the courage, period.
Yeah, courage is such a beautiful tree, an outgrowth of love. You know, you're never going to have the courage or want to be an encourager
Mhm.
and to another individual unless you love them. But it's an amazing thing. I think it's an untapped resource that we have levels of encouragement within us toward other people that we've really not um, tapped into all the way.
Right,
I want to
right.
be an encourager. I really do. And when you do that, somehow you get to partake of courage yourself to a much greater extent. But if you put it this way, John, if I go around trying to discourage other people, isn't my tank running pretty low if I expect to be encouraged by other people, but I go around just being a bummer to everyone? You're really going to just deplete your stocks of courage if you don't make it a goal to be an encourager. And actually to be an encourager is the way to a fulfilled life.
Exactly. There was a little note after the word courage, and it is light in the dark.
Yeah, and who doesn't want that light switch flipped? Any of us want that.
Yeah.
And it's not good to be discouraged. And the thing is kind of like Superman. He goes in the phone booth and he comes out extraordinary. Why? Because he made a decision. That was the place where he made a dedication, a consecration that, hey, I'm going to take my life, come what may, and use it for the benefit of other people. He bursts out of that phone booth, and what? He's on the way to help somebody.
Right.
And by that disposition of his, he became extraordinary himself. But who is Superman, John? He's Clark Kent.
Yeah.
He's me and he's you. Because we're ordinary people that can become extraordinary depending on what we do in the phone booth of our decisions and our crisis point.
Uh-huh.
That's where we either rise or fall, is how we decide that we're going to go forward in a crisis.
And that could be a test on chapter number 3, honesty. That's up to my integrity of.
Yes. Honesty is a huge one, and John, I grew up as a teenager that I was not an honest person. But
Right.
there came a point when I was maybe around 18 or so that all changed for me. And I just refused to ever say anything about anyone that's not true. Just not going to do it. And I think it's a good place to be, that we are honest. Now, I have an unsung hero story in every single chapter of that book.
Mm-hmm.
And so every unsung hero story is a diving board into the subject matter of that chapter. And honesty, the story that I have for honesty has to do with a really good example of the price we pay for dishonesty. So that's the story of the Modoc Indian Nation. And I'm sure we don't have enough time for me to tell that story. The Modoc people came from the lava beds of California. They ended up prisoners of war in northeastern Oklahoma. Go figure that.
Right. Well, a
But
lot of those tribes were known for taking Oklahoma. I was schooled in Oklahoma, elementary school, and some junior high, some high school, and that's when we moved to Dallas.
Okay.
And I became a Texican, and but my oldest grandson, he's going to graduate from the OU from Norman.
Okay, that's where I live, Norman.
Yeah, great.
Yep.
It's I liked it a lot.
A lot of. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
A lot of people don't know there are 39 federally recognized Native American tribes in the state of Oklahoma. And at one time, they were sentenced here. You guys get to live in this territory forever because we don't want you on the east side of the Mississippi. We're going to exile you to Indian Territory. And so, but that was until the Oklahoma Land Run. And when Oklahoma oil was discovered in Indian Territory, it eventually became the 46th state in the Union in 1907. But it was because of oil
Of course.
that this land was desirable all of a sudden. Okay, we wanted to take over the Indian Territory.
Right.
That's a sad story, and it's a lesson in dishonesty.
True. True. But even today, the up and down of oil is showing the economics on whether or not that's true or not, and it's still working like it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Friendship.
Friendship. I did an interview, and I really prefer to call it a visit or a conversation because Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, preferred to call his television shows visits. And so I met Hedda Sherapan, who worked with him almost 60 years. From the very first episode, Hedda Sherapan worked with Mr. Rogers. And she is the one that kind of influenced me to, hey, I really don't want to call these interviews anymore. I want to call them visits.
Right.
That's the way he treated it. And so I got to talk to her for several hours, and I learned a lot about Mr. Rogers, and I put it in there in my chapter on friendship, and also in my chapter on faithfulness, because Hedda is the lead unsung hero story in the chapter on faithfulness.
I've always been a big fan of Mr. Rogers, and I had two sets of family to do it over and make it good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yep.
Um,
Time tested. Yeah.
Optimism.
Optimism. Jim Stovall, he's my lead story, unsung hero story on optimism, because he's a blind man that founded the Narrative Television Network here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where more than 13 million blind people can watch TV. He's also a blind man that has authored 50 books. And how does a blind man write books? And he's read a book every single day for more than 25 years. How does a blind man do that? Well, a person should probably read my unsung hero story on Jim Stovall to find out how he does that.
It's amazing, really amazing. One of the ones here that I liked is hope. It's the wind for your sails.
Yeah, everyone needs hope. Anytime that is diminished or depleted, we don't like it. And so why would anyone else? So it behooves us all to be dispensers of hope. And I met a man out here in Oklahoma whose whole life career is on he's a hope scientist. I didn't know that existed until I met him.
Interesting.
But I also tell the lead story, unsung hero story of Black Wall Street, 1921, where hope was burned to the ground in a community, a racial, what was called the 1921 Tulsa race riot. More and more people know about that, but it was hidden for a long time. And so I had a conversation with Senator Kevin Matthews, who grew up in Greenwood. Greenwood became Black Wall Street, which was burned to the ground. But hope rose out of that. And there's a whole story about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And I had a conversation with Senator Kevin Matthews about it because he's so familiar, having grown up there in Greenwood.
Right. Hope is a lot in my life. And actually, I'm going to send, after we finish here, I'm going to send you a video. And I was prepping for a TED Talk. Let's see here. Diligence, the winner's edge.
Yeah, diligence is the winner's edge. It's kind of like, well, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, these characters, they're more like us than we are like them. Truth is stranger than fiction. We need to be these kinds of superheroes, which are truly super helpers. That's all superheroes are. They take all the limits off their life by being helpers. And so diligence, it's the thing that gets things done, in the right way with the right attitude. It's not enough. Hard work alone isn't enough, but hard work with a really good attitude will get anything done.
Creativity, gotta have that.
Creativity, yeah, it's the genius of what we do. What you do, John, what I do, what Mac does, what anyone does. You take your talent and your gift and you create with it. It's the edge, it's the genius of what you do is how you apply it. Anyway, we all have raw talents and gifts, but the genius is making it your own and finding a way to apply that where it benefits to other people. So my unsung hero story is a violinist from Israel that I met in Jerusalem, and he's one of the best violinists in the world, but he will play for an audience of 30,000, but he'll also play for one person in a cave in Jerusalem and get as much joy out of that as he does for performing in front of a crowd. And that's why I say we should do what we do, not for the applause of it,
Right.
but because it's worthwhile to do something that is beneficial to another person. Now, he played in a cave in Jerusalem for one Jewish man, and it brought tears to the eyes of that Jewish man. It was so beautiful. And the resonance you can imagine of the sound in a cave is absolutely amazing. But Nir Sarusi, his story is in my chapter on creativity. He's really an extraordinary person, not just because of his talent, but the way he's chosen to apply that gift.
I was thinking about number 9. Number 9, gratitude, the equalizer.
Yeah, gratitude is so important because, and the reason I called it an equalizer is because we need to be grateful for what we've been able to do or accomplish in our lives. We always get there with the help of someone. Someone helped us to where we are, right? But let's say you achieved greatly and then you become a little proud or boasting about that. Well, we need to remember that we didn't do that on our own. So gratitude should always be distributed. You hear the interview of the Super Bowl winning team, and at the end, the coach says it's all about the players, and the players say it's all about my teammates, because you can't ever get to the place where you're not grateful, because we were made as persons to be connected, and we never get anywhere alone. And so gratitude keeps us honest and keeps us from getting the big head, but it also will keep us from thinking less of ourselves than we should. So the person that doesn't think of themselves highly enough should have that raised. The person that thinks too highly of themselves should have that lowered just a few notches. It's an equalizer.
Faithfulness, the great connector.
Faithfulness is doing things well and doing them thoroughly, being a completer of the things that are in front of us. You're setting new habits when you're faithful in the small things. This is where we play small ball, because we have to do small things well. And when we do small things well, we're creating habits that will endure for the rest of our lives. When I'm faithful in a small thing, I know for sure that I'm going to be faithful in a larger thing. So I always say, we need to treat big things as small and small things as big, and try to not differentiate. We want to be a finisher. And that's why I talked with Hedda, who worked with Mr. Rogers for so long. She is the unsung hero story in the chapter on faithfulness. And there's other stories in the chapters about those subjects, but she was the lead one.
Well, next is mercy and then growth.
Yeah, I talked about mercy. in the context of my father's death. And that was in August of 2022. And a nurse that became an unsung hero for him. And I can't go into all the reasons why, but she is the unsung hero story in the chapter on mercy because of what she did in the context of a hospital for my father. And the things that she did went way beyond the call of duty as a nurse. And it allowed us all to spend every family member time with him an hour and a half. She foresaw his death coming. We didn't. And so I'll let the reader plumb the depths of that one. But, hospital workers, they don't often get the credit they deserve. It's a mercy gift. It can be, it should be. You can approach a job like a job, or you can actually have a heart of compassion like she did toward other people and actually make a big difference.
Tell my audience, Jim, where your books are. Who's selling them for you?
Yeah, it's my book, Unsung Heroes Wear No Capes, 12 Essential Virtues for an Extraordinary Life. It's on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, walmart.com, and just bunches of outlets I don't even know yet. It's also on my website, jimbnorth.com. The links to all those places that I just mentioned are on my website, and a person can read the back cover if they want to get a additional flavor
Sure.
for what the book's about. jimbnorth.com. It's there.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to take care of our state today. We almost didn't make it, but we got it.
Yes, we did.
We
Yeah, I
did.
really appreciate the time with you and the conversation. And it's not our first conversation, and I've enjoyed it whenever I've gotten to talk to you, and appreciate your purpose with what you do, searching for
Well, thanks
integrity.
very much. Yeah.
Such a
Our
worthwhile
listeners,
thing.
it is very, very much so. Um, and I always thank my listeners to tune in. Don't forget us, searching for integrity. And so long and happy trails to all until we meet again. How's that?
Thanks, John.